Back in 1903, deep in Clifton, there used to be an asylum buried deep within the wilderness of Clifton. Pretty soon after the Civil War, people started inhabiting the area. Population-wise, around 300 or so. It was a very small town. Nonetheless, people didn't like the idea about having an asylum miles down the road, so they all got together and signed a petition stating for the asylum to relocate elsewhere. The petition passed, and a new asylum was built, which is now known as Lorton Prison, a temporary facility until convicts are appropriately sentenced. In the fall of 1904, the convicts were gathered and piled into the bus, which was to transport them to Lorton. Somehow, during the drive, not too far from where they were left, the driver had swerved to avoid something, and the bus had started to tip, and soon was rolling in a terrible collision course. Most of the convicts were injured or killed, but some had managed to escape the bus and had fled into the night woods. Later on, the next morning, a local police investigation had begun, and they had rounded up all the escaped convicts. Hours turned into days, and days into weeks, weeks into months. Everyone was recovered after 4 months except 2 people, Marcus A. Walster and Douglas J. Griffin. During the search for both men, the police randomly found dead rabbits, half-eaten or disassembled every now and then along their search. Finally, they were able to find Marcus, dead himself, by the Fairfax Station Bridge, now known as Bunnyman's Bridge. In his hand, he held a man-made hammer/knife-like tool made with a sharp rock and pointy, sturdy branches as a handle. They thought nothing and cared not how he died, only that he was apprehended. He was no longer a problem for them. They had a name for Marcus, but later on they would realize they had named the wrong person the Bunnyman. Still searching for Douglas, they kept on finding dead, half-eaten bunnies every so often while the search went on. Finally, they were to name Douglas the Bunnyman from then on. 3 months passed by, and the police had given up their search in April of 1905. Everybody assumed the Bunnyman was dead by now, if not gone, so they all went on with their lives in the small town. Come October, people started seeing dead rabbits reappearing out of the blue, and started to fear the unseen. Halloween night came around, and as usual, a bunch of kids had gone over to the bridge that night to drink and do whatever kids their age did in the early 1900s. Midnight came around within minutes, and most of the kids had already left. Only 3 of them remained at the bridge. Right at midnight, supposedly, a bright light back from within the bridge came out where the kids were, and in less than a couple of seconds, they were dead. Their throats had been slashed with the same type of tool found by the other escapee, Marcus. Not only were their throats slashed, but their chests were cut open with long slashes going through them. To top it off, the Bunnyman hung both of the guys from one end of the bridge with a rope around their neck, hanging from the overpass with their legs dangling in front of the pass of cars. The women were hung in the same way on the other side of the bridge. This happened on Halloween in 1905. After that, they didn't see or hear anything from him for another year. Halloween 1906 was approaching, and parents as well as teens in Clifton still remember the incident that had occurred 1 year ago at the bridge. His bridge. The Bunnyman's Bridge. That night, 7 teens were left remaining right before midnight at the bridge. Thinking little of it, 6 remained inside the bridge, while one, Adrian Hotala, had remained a good distance from the bridge, hoping to have enough time to escape if the same thing happened again. At midnight, she witnessed only this: a dim light walking the railroad track right before midnight, stopping right above the bridge at midnight, then disappearing at the same time as a bright flash was inside the bridge. She heard the deafening sounds of horrific screams coming from inside the bridge that lasted seconds. 5 seconds later, they were all hung up on the edge of the bridge, same style as the corpses from the year before. Horrified, she ran home. She didn't tell anybody what she saw, just muttered words here and there that some of the folk put together to come up with her story. No one understood it or believed her. They charged her with the murder of her friends and locked her up in the asylum of Lorton. In 1913, the same thing happened again with 9 teenagers this time. Halloween night. Adrian was still locked up. They dropped her sentence, but it was too late. The insanity had finally conquered her. Even if she was released, she was too far gone to have a decent life. So she spent her remaining years in the asylum until she finally died in 1953 of shock. No one knows exactly what she died from, but supposedly she had horrific nightmares of the incidents that happened. Perhaps the Bunnyman had finally gotten to her. More murders were to take place, however, although after the murders in 1913, most people stayed clear of the bridge on Halloween. 1943 rolls around, and 6 teenagers go strolling out on Halloween night. A couple hours later, all of them dead. Same way as all the other victims. Investigations took place, but as usual, nothing was discovered. In 1976, the same situation occurred again, this time only with 3 people. The only other incident that occurred still then was in 1987, 12 years ago. Janet Charletier was enjoying the night with her 4 friends. Halloween night had finally come, and they had gone driving out to enjoy a night after invading the children's candy bags. They had settled around 11 at the bridge, waiting for midnight to come. They didn't believe the myth about the Bunnyman, and decided to see it for themselves, and were bound to be the only ones who actually withstood the Bunnyman. They had waited around 55 minutes or so, and at midnight, Janet started to get a little scared. They had been pulling pranks on each other, jumping out of the bushes and screaming, so she was already a little worked up. Midnight hits. While she is completely freaked out, she's almost out of the bridge when the lights get really bright inside the bridge. When that happens, her body is halfway outside of the bridge. She sees her skin start tearing off her chest, but nothing is piercing her skin. She manages to finally exit the bridge. Completely horrified, she hits a hanging body and knocks herself out. When she awakes, she finds her hair has turned white, and she has been bleeding. She was lucky that cut wasn't too severe. She left and never returned to the bridge again. She has been sitting on a swinging bench on her balcony every morning, just staring in the direction towards the bridge a couple of miles down. To this day, you can still find her on the bench every morning. From then on, the stories dwell untouched and unmoved. Halloween night, you will find a bunch of people hanging around the bridge, drinking, smoking, but within a few minutes later, you will find them dead. It's been like that for the past 5 years or more. But be warned, if you go to Bunnyman Bridge on Halloween night, you may never escape alive. And for those of you who do, know this: the Bunnyman Bridge is a dangerous place to be. Don't risk hanging there, or surely the Bunnyman will hang you.